So according to feedback from many people going through Amazon interviews, I would say at least 80% of Amazon interviews get delayed at one point in time for one reason or another. So either your first phone interview gets delayed, either the decision after the on-site gets delayed. But anyhow, around 80% of the time there is a delay in Amazon interviews. And probably quickly, why would these delays happen? And the theory here is that Amazon employs a structured hiring process, which means that there are many people involved in it. So imagine for the loop, they must get availability for 5 people on the same day, and even if one of them is only through Amazon's Chime, still it's quite a challenge to get this type of availability. So structured hiring is the fundamental reason why this process is slow. The other obvious reason is they do not need you right now. So because the structured hiring is quite tough to do in a proper way, they must prioritize these things. So unless your role is an urgent requirement for them, it's probably they're going to feel more comfortable delaying it, even if only a little bit. Or it could also be because of the priorities of the recruiter have evolved. In other words, they must fill for multiple roles, and probably other roles are more important than yours. And this is also a scenario. Of course, like a member of the hiring team could be unavailable, but that's not the main reason why I'm making this video. The main reason why I'm making this video is because I believe you should consider a way to take this to your advantage. Because if you know that 80% of Amazon interviews get delayed, I believe there is a way you could capitalize on this. And I believe the best way to capitalize on this is to basically, if they do structured hiring, you should employ a structured approach when preparing for the Amazon interview. So in other words, if, for example, they call you in for a second phone interview, and they give you 1 week, don't employ a reactive approach, such as, hey, let me quickly go through Dan's 35 most commonly asked questions during any Amazon interview, just in order, to future-proof myself, because that's not the correct approach. You cannot future-proof yourself during any interview. The correct approach is to build a basis, a foundation of these things, and the way you build the foundation of preparation for the Amazon interview is to come up with stories for those 14 leadership principles, to really spend 1 or 2 days to write down those stories and remember as many details as you can, and then slowly to go through questions, maybe again for each of the 14 leadership principles, and try to answer and develop yourself, do role play and all that stuff. So what happens is, as I said, more often than not, you will have plenty of time to prepare for these things, because more often than not, the interview is going to get delayed. So this is actually how you can differentiate yourself from other people that might employ a more reactive approach here. The other thing you could take advantage of this presumed delay during Amazon interviews is you could apply for multiple roles at Amazon. Actually, I know many people who apply for 2 roles at once for Amazon. That's not unheard of, and it's actually something that I would recommend, given so long as you find something relevant, sufficiently interesting for yourself. So who knows, maybe one of them becomes a priority, and for most, maybe not most, but for many people, the priority is to get into Amazon. Right? So if you want to get into Amazon, maybe you would want to accept other types of roles too, of course, given you're qualified and all that stuff. Now, another aspect I wanted to talk about here is, why do some interviews happen on short notice? Because truth be said, there are such scenarios, and there are 2 main scenarios here. The first one is that you're someone that's really special, and Amazon is genuinely interested in your services, so that's why they call you on site on short notice. I even know of people who were allowed with cheat sheets during the on-site interview simply because they were called in on 1 week notice, which makes it essentially impossible to get familiar with all those leadership principles and behavioral interviewing in general. But this is the happy scenario. The second scenario is not that happy, especially for senior roles. So what happens when they want to fill in a senior role, super senior role, they go with an algorithm like this. They try to find someone extremely qualified that they believe they would do a great job, and they keep that person as a reference. As soon as they find it, they call everyone else in to see, hey, can we confirm that this guy is the right guy? And what they basically do is call everyone else in for an on-site interview on short notice, essentially compare with the performance of that top performer, right? So it's not necessarily a good idea if you get a short notice call for these types of things. And I also recently learned about it. And finally, should you follow up with them if they become non-responsive? And I believe the overall theme of this should be no, you should not, because more often than not, if they're non-responsive, they rarely forget about these things because they are getting paid for them. So that's how you should think about it. So if they don't reply, it means their priorities have evolved. Now, this being said, there is one scenario in which I would definitely recommend you to give it a go, in which you've got another offer from another company. Then you should at least tell them, hey, do you think there's any chance we could expedite the process on this short notice? And of course, why not see if that's possible? And yeah, just quickly, if only 2 weeks have passed by, and especially if you're in Asia, where I believe delays are the worst, I don't think you should follow up with them. I would give them at least 1 month for this, because really things happen a lot slower there. So yeah, so this is what I know at least about delays at Amazon. As always, I hope you found this information useful, and thank you very much for watching.